Hello and welcome to the Heated Debate brought to you by Emirates. Part 2. We talked about the players, we talked about the manager. We thought we had to talk about you guys at home and everyone here in Qatar in the stadiums, the fans as well. Zach, I'll come to you.
Yeah.
Just because the fans are a huge part of the game. Everyone's got an opinion, including us. We were all walking out of the stadium last night listening to those opinions.
Yeah.
Plenty of people have got smiles on their faces. But you mentioned it in the last video, a hint of pessimism still as well.
Yeah.
It feels like there always will be.
I think there always will be. I think sometimes we have a thing where everyone kind of thinks they can do better than Gareth Southgate, and maybe that's just being football fans and in general kind of thinking that we know best. It's a shame because I think one of the biggest successes we saw from the Euros is that the fans, and it helps as well that England played a lot of their games at Wembley and at home, so they saw a lot of that. But I've seen players also mention it, that the fans and the stuff that online was always so positive. It was always like, England can do this, England can do this, Gareth has made the right decision. Whereas this World Cup, really, only because there's been one game that didn't quite go away. We didn't even lose it, we just didn't score a goal and it ended 0-0. We've seen it kind of flip, and a lot of pessimism about it, and a lot of negativity about it. And I just think sometimes we forget more on social media, that we kind of forget that this is tournament football, and sometimes you have to be a bit more strategic with the way you play games, and sometimes things don't quite go the way you want things. But that just one game doesn't define an era, doesn't define how Gareth Southgate has been for England, or how the tournament's going to go. The fans in the stadium yesterday were really good. It was the best. We've been very lucky enough to go to all 3 games. The best one so far. Yet by half-time, I think we still saw maybe a lot of negativity. I also personally was saying England could have done better. I wasn't necessarily criticising Gareth Southgate or whatever. I think it was just me kind of thinking England, with the squad that we had, could have done better. But there were still others saying a lot worse.
I think that in the stadium, the USA game, guys, it was one of those ones where the sort of grumbles got kind of worse and worse, and I think, as you were talking there, I think I guess is interesting and useful, and probably a bit of a relief, I guess, for everyone involved, is that we come out in the second half and score goals quite quickly. I think my problem with it at times is the fact that we're a bit too reactionary the wrong way.
Yeah.
And we kind of, my fear is always, and everyone knows who watches my channel will know that I use this phrase of not getting in our own way. Like, let's not get in our own way. Let's retain the positivity, because I think what we do know is that when players are confident, let's look at Marcus Rashford.
Yeah.
When he a year ago, people were saying, "You're finished. You're washed. You're never going to be that player that we want you to be." Football will continuously prove us wrong. So sometimes you just got to wait. And I think with the USA game, the game last night, fortunately, we got those couple of goals. It would have been interesting to see if we hadn't, and how it would have played out, because I do think there is a sort of divide with England fans, and it always makes its way back to Southgate, in my opinion. I think definitely. Familiarity breeds contempt a little bit, and can I be honest? I really think there's a shallowness sometimes as to the fact that Gareth Southgate is called Gareth. I'm not having to go at anyone called Gareth right now. He was a defensive centre back. He was at Middlesbrough. He wasn't at these sexy places playing sexy football. Yeah. He's not Roberto Mancini. Do you know what I mean?
If it was Zinedine Zidane, I think he'd have he'd have an easier time.
Do you know what the comparison I was thinking was? Jose Mourinho is a great example.
Yeah.
Jose Mourinho plays horrible defensive football and has done so for a long, long time. But he's a bit more charismatic.
Yeah.
He's a bit more. He's got that ego, so people get excited about that, and it brings victories. Gareth Southgate has done a very, very, very good job. And what disappoints me, and what could be a huge issue in terms of us getting where we want to be in this tournament, in the next tournament if Southgate's there, and whoever the next guy is that there never seems to be enough credit in the bank for the decisions that he's made over the last few years. He's been exemplary in the way that he's behaved, and essentially the decisions that he's made. And we were 2 kicks away from winning the Euros. And I just think we're going to get in our own way, and that worries me.
Isn't the style of play an issue, though? Because actually, you said the game against the USA doesn't sum up everyone or the whole performances of the time under Gareth Southgate. I actually think people did think it quite did. We didn't really know what was happening. Phil Foden was sat on the bench, and you've got this young team that are there, that are hungry, incredible talent, and you're not using them. That has been something we've heard over
But
the years.
who's not
under
using
Gareth
them, Carl?
Southgate.
The players are not using themselves, I think.
Well, I'm not saying for my opinion, I'm saying this is what I've heard when people are talking, when fans are saying, actually, that game against the USA was frustrating because there was clearly someone on the bench who could be a game changer, and Gareth Southgate didn't use him. Now, in the next game against Wales, he does use him, and again, a different style of play. How do England play football? Is it tournament football that everyone always says? Is that good enough, winning a tournament? Well, we've not done it yet. Yes, we've got close, but actually, we've not won a tournament. We're playing the way you should do in a tournament. How do England play?
If you look at the previous winners of like the France at the last World Cup, actually didn't play great football.
Yeah.
They were, considering the talent they had, they didn't play amazing football. Defensive, essentially they played tournament football. They won the competition. Even England in the final against Italy in the Euros, like Italy weren't playing amazing football. It went to penalties.
Yeah.
Penalties are penalties.
But shouldn't Southgate have changed something, like we're saying?
But I still
I get annoyed about this one as well, because so the Italy game, we scored a goal after 2 minutes. At half time, I'm turning to my dad and I'm going, if we just have a clean sheet here, we are champions of Europe. So game state matters with these things, and that gets repackaged stupidly, in my opinion. The Italy game, we're using the Italy losing a final as a stick to beat us with. That's crazy to me.
But also, you did highlight that in the USA game, he should have made changes earlier on. So it's game to game, so it can work in some instances, it cannot. Because I actually think he didn't get it too wrong in the game against Italy, but we've seen at times that maybe we think he's got it wrong.
There is also an element in football where, you know what, the manager can't affect sometimes what happens on the pitch.
Yeah.
Like when the whistle's been blown, apart from obviously making substitutions, which he can do, then it's up to the players that he's picked. And I think normally, apart from maybe with Phil Foden, we've been quite happy with the squad he's picked. I think everyone in general would kind of do what he's done. And every time someone does question him, he then kind of makes a change that everyone agrees with. And so sometimes, like for instance, the game against Italy, maybe we did go a little bit more defensive and should have tried to dominate the ball a little bit more. But also, maybe the players do that as well themselves. You go 1-0 up in the Euros final, the first thing you're thinking now is, let's not concede the whole game. Yeah. Let's not concede. And unfortunately, it came from a set piece eventually.
And maybe we're playing against a good team. Maybe we were 2 kicks away from winning that again. I think specific critiques are fine.
Yeah.
What annoys me is that we're so, for example, he should have made substitutes earlier in the USA game. We could all see it wasn't right. We've got depth off the bench. We've got 5 substitutes. Make the change. I say that to Southgate's face, right? What annoys me is when we, feel free. What annoys me is when we take something small and make it to a broad point, which is that Gareth Southgate isn't good enough. That's just that's been proven wrong now. He has been very, very good.
But there are fans that still think that he's not good enough and that want him gone.
There's always going to be, because there were fans before the World Cup started that said, let's get rid of Southgate and get Thomas Tuchel in. Tuchel in. A guy who'd obviously done very well with Chelsea but had never had any experience of managing international football. Let's get rid of a manager who took us to the semi-finals of the World Cup and the finals of the Euros. And okay, England hadn't been amazing up to that point. That's a fair assessment, but based on his history in tournament football, had done very, very good and got us into the World Cup with qualifying, and definitely deserved to at least have a go at this. Yeah. And I just think it's that point we made earlier, is that Gareth Southgate, name-wise and also just in general, isn't the stars, isn't the flashy name that it could be possibly. And if it was, maybe England fans would be a little bit more keen to kind of give him the benefit of doubt.
I don't think we can argue that this England squad, the next crop of players coming through as well, are one of, if not the most exciting that we've ever had, that could go on to also win a tournament. Have we got the manager that can help them do that? Do you think he's the right man?
Yeah, I think we do. I think it's just the CV isn't what people want, and we have a lot of Premier League fans, understandably, and they're used to the guy who's got the CV, but you need time to get that CV. I think it's about expectations as well. Football fandom, football full stop, is about expectations. Wales have played poorly in 3 games, right? But because the expectations are low, their fans go, look, you guys gave everything and that's enough. With England, we have two different kinds of fans. You have fans that go, hang on a minute, we're England, we created this game. And they go, so we expect to win everything, right? There's also fans, let's chuck a third type of fan. There'll be a fan that goes, we've got the best league in the world, we've got all these players playing for Man City, Liverpool, all these big teams. There's that, and also, look, we've got to a final here, we've got Harry Kane, all this stuff. So they could go, again, we should be up there. That's fine. But I think there's also a group of fans who've gone, we've had that for our entire lives, with the golden generation, and we weren't able to find a way to get where we wanted to be. And Gareth Southgate, tournament on tournament, up until this point, has navigated us better and better. The bottom line will be, is that it's all or nothing. Yeah. It really is. It is all or nothing. Either we win it, or those pessimists will continue to say that Southgate isn't up to it. So, from his point of view, he has to go and win it.
Well, you mentioned the golden generation, right? And that was a time where we kind of just had our best players and just put square pegs in round holes. And now you've got a manager like Gareth Southgate, who's actually a bit more willing to try.
Been adaptable,
Who has been adaptable, who wants to use players in certain different positions, and maybe not play a player in a certain position because it doesn't quite fit that role. I think the other element as well is, especially when people compare these managers, they go like, Jurgen Klopp's at Liverpool, Pep's at Man City. Club football and international football are two different games. They're two different games. And actually, when you look at a lot of guys that have won things at international level, maybe don't have the best club CV, the best club record. And vice versa. Guys that go from international football into club football don't have maybe the best club honours list either. I think it's two different style of games. And Gareth Southgate, for his time at England so far, has done fantastic.
The bottom line is, when you're looking at a manager these days, I think, because you don't have to have played at the highest level to be a great manager. There is a long list of those people. For me, I'm going, is this guy intelligent? Is this guy adaptable? Is this guy brave enough? Has this guy got a plan? Has this guy researched and left every stone unturned, or whatever the phrase is?
The veg.
Has he done all of those things? Yes, he has. So, just get behind the lads.
Get behind the lads. Well, all those questions there. Has Gareth Southgate got all of that? Is he the man to lead England and the next group of England players to glory? Let us know in the comments. Drop us a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course, drop us a comment. I like to read them. I like to be told that these two, and me sometimes, we're all wrong. This is the Heated Debate, brought to you by Emirates. We're here every single match day talking about the biggest footballing topics, and we'll see you tomorrow.